Okay, so hi and all that. It's been a while. Mostly because I've been working. But anyways, today I'm gonna do something a little bit different. Instead of a gameplay, I'm going to teach about Unreal Engine 4. Currently I have 4.6.1, and I know that there are more that are available, higher versions that are available, but like 4.7.5, but I'm not using those right now, mostly because I've heard some problems with bugs. But I mean, it always has bugs. So anyways, um, Unreal Engine 4 is pretty awesome software. When you first open it up, you'll get like this screen. If you have any questions about tutorials or anything, there's a bunch of quick start, like really awesome video tutorials that will show you how to basically use the prep engine and get stuff all started. Let's see here. So like all kinds of stuff to get you started. Um, if you just want to experiment with what comes in the scene, this table and desk right here is pretty much default items you can get for free with the games. Otherwise, Marketplace. You can either buy stuff, or you can do what I do, which is just download all the free things and then play around with those assets until you can build your own. I know a lot of people can't afford things like Photoshop and Max and Maya and things like that, so there are all kinds of free alternatives to use as well. Personally, I like using Krita, which is a painting program for my 2D art, and then of course Photoshop if you have it available. Krita is actually a pretty powerful 2D program I've found out so far. I'm really enjoying it for painting wise, at least. I haven't really experimented with it for photo manipulation of any type, so I should probably try that soon. And then for free 3D modeling programs, Blender is actually really powerful. I've had to learn it for work, and in my opinion, it's almost equal to Max. Not quite, but almost there. So I mean, if you actually want to learn how to use the 3D program and make your own assets without having to buy them, Blender is pretty good once you learn how to use it. I'm thinking about doing a tutorial on how to do the basics of Blender sometime in the future, so that'll be sometime later on. But I mean, you can create all kinds of stuff in here. But here's Krita. I mean, some of this stuff is a little bit confusing if you're not too familiar with it, but the brushes and stuff in Krita are pretty awesome. Oh no, it's frozen. There we go. Like it works with pressure sensitivity if you have the Wacom. It's slightly different workflow than Max, but I mean, or not Max, sorry, Photoshop. But I mean, go away. But I mean, some of the default brushes are pretty awesome. But anyways, we're not doing that today. So, like I said, you can use, there's all kinds of free softwares out there to make your own free, or not free, make your own assets. Otherwise, there's the library here to purchase your own, the marketplace, I should say. And then when you purchase it, the ones you purchase appear down here, and you can just add them to the project or create a new project, whichever. So, I'll do that later. Anyways, starting your own project, you'll get one of the engine versions, and then you'll just launch it. And it takes sometimes a little bit to open up, but I mean, it's not like it's too bad. On this here, they also have Unreal Tournament available. You can create Marketplace just same as Unreal Engine. And then Fortnite, I guess, is an alpha. I don't know about this yet. I haven't really looked into it. It looks interesting, though. So maybe I'll check that out later. And then still opening. 29%? Maybe I should have opened this first. And okay, so it looks like, yeah. So this is the, you can open previously made projects if you have any, or else you can make a new project entirely. They've got all kinds of default templates at blank level, first-person shooter, flying, puzzles. I don't really know what this would be called. Just a rolling puzzle thingy. I don't know. Physics-based game, side-scroller, 2D side-scroller, third-person top-down, twin-stick shooter. So if you have a controller that you want to plug in and use, vehicle, and then advanced vehicle, whatever, higher quality, I don't know what you would call it. First person vehicle versus third person, whatever. Anyways, you get the point. C++, if you're into coding, like if you can program, these would be your things, but personally I'm not. Blueprints versus C++, it really all depends on how you're going to be doing your programming. Blueprints are something that artists can use. Like, I've been learning blueprinting, and I actually got like menu working, I got shaders working. Like, it takes a little bit of work to get used to, and if you're not too familiar with programming, there's all kinds of tutorials that you can just follow along online anyways, so it's really worth doing the blueprinting versus the coding if you know, if you're an artist and you don't know much about it. We've got 3 options down here. We've got if you're going to be working for mobile or desktop. The quality, like I'm really not sure what this does. I haven't played around with it. High end versus low end. So like 2D versus high poly, like Skyrim versus Temple Runner or something, you know. And then starter content, do you want it to have stuff already, the pre-made stuff already available, or nothing at all? If you don't have any assets of your own and you just want to play around with it, you might want to make sure you have your starter content available. And then you just name your project, like my first little project. Oh, it doesn't like spaces. And it doesn't like symbols either, so watch out for that. So you just go create your project and it'll generate the world based on your settings here. I probably should have picked like a third person instead of this one, but oh well. So you'll notice when it starts loading, after it gets past the initial, you got your name, project name. Oh, isn't that adorable? My first little project. Oh, my first little project. Yes. Anyways, and then I'll pause it again while it's. Oh, is it? Oh, there we go. And see, it's got the default items. You got your chair, your table, your little sculpture thingy. This is your player spawn. This is sphere reflection capture, which is something a little bit complex that we won't touch. This makes the fog back here, like the I don't know if you can see it, but like if you get rid of it, it's easier to see. Usually, like if you go in the distance, you can see it. Let's do fog multiplier 5. Or is it the other way? Anyways, it modifies things and stuff. The undo button set to default is nice. So over here, we've got our content browser. This displays all the items that you currently have available to put into the scene. You can just grab an asset and click and drop. Audio is a little bit different. Blueprints, I was talking about those earlier. The visual programming, Let's see if this should have something. You can literally just set up nodes and then point light. You set a light in the scene, you can reference it in the blueprint. You set the intensity and the brightness, set the color, and then the radius. I mean, it's a little bit difficult if you're not familiar with programming, but I mean, it's a really powerful tool once you learn how to use it. That's something else that you'd best be looking at other tutorials for. Not sure what this is. I haven't really looked at that. Texture cube? Oh. HD render image is my guess of what that is. Probably pulled from... Yeah, this is just a... how would I say that? Like a reflection image you can use. Materials. Let's open this up so you can see it. Materials are the way you texture objects. You can use it to put different textures onto your object. These are actually made of a texture that you just... Oh, that one's complex. Never mind. Let's look at a different one. A bitmap image or a parameter, and this one's just a single RGB color parameter pretty much. You just pick the color you want and then plug it in. This one just means you can alter it through coding if you want it, parameter. This one's just a constant. Let's see here. Really easy to set up. This is, if you want to take the R for this one, oops, you can just click and drag and drop it, and then you can see the different things you can do with it. But metallic, you can play with the variables over here. So if metallic is at 1, you get like this metallic sheen on your object, versus metallic is at 0. It becomes very matte, like plasticky. And then you got your roughness over here. Set it at 1. It's really matte, like no reflection at all, versus 0, and it's really shiny, like it's got a glass surface. So the things you can do with materials once you figure out how to start using the different nodes is really powerful and really simple to do once you learn the basics. No. Particles, you know, fun things. Like smoke, fire, sparks, those are particle effects. They're a little bit different, a little bit more complex. That's something you'll have to learn on a different tutorial. I'm just mostly explaining what they are here. You can use them for all kinds of things, like that one's a one-time explosion, this one's a constant spark. You got steam coming out of, like, I don't know, something, a pot. Props, this is looks like it's just all the pre-made props available. A rock. Oh yeah, navigating in scene. Right click rotates your viewport, left click moves you. It's a little bit interesting to get used to how it works if you're not used to it. Double click is up and down. You can also use WASD. You used to be able to use WASD. Why is my... Never mind then. Maybe I just have that set turned off. But anyways. Different assets you can use. Shapes, just pre-made shapes it looks like. And then textures. These are the items you would use to create a material. So like let's just choose one. Something good. Here's a good one. Let's this one's a cobblestone. You can't just click and drop without it like it doesn't quite work right. Like obviously I clicked and dropped this one, but it dropped the normal on there. So what you want to do for your material, right click on your thing, create material, and it'll just auto name it something. Double click on it and you got your material in here. If you just create a material without having an object selected, it'll just create a blank material. And if you have your texture selected in the content browser, then you can bring it in either by clicking and dragging, or if you have it selected here, you can hold down the T button and create the reference to it. Obviously that's not a very good material, so you just build your material out of the pieces you need for it. So this one would be normal, and you just start building it up. Hold 1 for what do you call that? Just a constant. And you got your 1 through and 3 for your, hold 3 and click for the RGB constant. It's really simple. But there's all kinds of shortcuts you can learn later. No. Go away. No. So let's just toss that on there. Get rid of this. But anyways, that's the material. Like, there's all kinds of things you can do with the materials located inside the content browser. You can easily import your own. They don't have a mesh tab. You can easily import your own meshes, your own 3D meshes, and it'll have this type of screen show up. You can see the wireframes, you can see the collision. That's how it calculates things bumping into it. If you're not familiar with collision, you can show the pivot of the object, so when you rotate it in screen, that's where it'll rotate from, or if you move it in, that's where it'll move from. Normals, this starts getting into more complex things over here. UVs and all that. But the main thing is you can set a material, the default material right here. Like you can just click and drag the material onto the object, but it doesn't leave a default material. But you can set the default material in the LOD0 right here. So every time you drag it in, it'll always have this material. The rest you can go over later. Anyways, so the different things you can do, new folders, import, blueprint is the programming, the visual programming level is if you want to create a new map, I think. Well, there's yeah, which is this thing right here. If you want to create a new one. And then material, I went over material already briefly. Particle systems using a 2D map to make like sparks, and then all your different things for creating objects to put in the scene. There's all kinds of things you can do, but the basics for just getting a scene blocked out are meshes and materials. Over here we got our different modes. We've got the everything you recently placed into the scene, so if you want to just access it quickly, you can from here. You got your camera, player start, point lights. You can either click and drag or hold L and click, and it creates a new point light. Trigger, if you when you hit the trigger, you can like open doors and stuff. Target point is for AI navigation. Different types of lights. You got your dominant, your directional light, I should say. This is like the sunlight. Point lights, spotlight, if you want to just have a spotlight made. You can see the area of influence, the angle it's at. You can also modify these, make it more bright, like let's set it at 50,000, and outer cone angle, make it more. You can see, like, you can modify a lot of things. Skylight is kind of just like an overall light in the scene. It doesn't have any direction, it's just there. Visual, post-process volume, if you want to have like outlines on a specific items in you would program it and then use a post-process volume. Atmospheric fog is this one, or is that exponential? Okay, exponential fog is pretty much the same thing. It's just a little bit different. You can set how foggy it is, and then you can manually adjust the fog height or actually use the keys to change it all. Oh, where's my delete? There it is. Sphere reflection capture, box reflection capture. That was this thing here. It's a little bit more complex. If you want to make like mirrors or reflecting things, you'll have to use those. Decals, so like when you're shooting and your gun creates a bullet hole when it hits the wall, that's a decal. Basic shapes, BSPs, they're a bit heavy. You generally do not want to use BSPs except for blocking out your project. They're a little bit different than actual meshes. If you'll notice that it just there's just a wireframe that it'll generate the geometry, the sides for it. That's because it literally is just a wire that generates the thing. Editing these can be a little bit annoying. You generally don't want to scale it. If you want to edit the shape, you just go into this mode over here. Click the pieces you want to modify, and just modify them. Hey, stop it. There we go. Let's see here. Volumes. Volumes are area of influence. So like light, mass, importance, volume. Everything inside of this square, light, mass, important, volume makes it so it renders the light completely instead of just half-assed. So like if I have a importance volume on only this half of the scene over here, the lighting over here will be fully created, versus if I just had it on on the other side, or versus not having it, I should say. We'll just make that 500. The lighting over here would only be would not be as complex in comparison. So what it does, volumes outline the area that you want a certain effect to be inside of. So, like if you want a lava or something, you could just toss a pain-causing volume underneath your water, set the height of the volume to be the surface of your lava, so when your character jumps in, when it hits that volume, it'll automatically receive damage. So does that make sense? It probably does. Anyways, paint. I haven't actually played with this yet. It looks like it would be vertex paint. So probably, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't used this yet, so you'd probably have to find somebody who knows more about it. Landscape. Landscapes are awesome. You can create a landscape. It just looks like a flat plane, but it's easiest if you use like a Wacom pen. You just set your tool. Let's go with noise. Make it bigger. Why aren't you working? Nope. I don't want to modify you, I want to modify my brush. You can just create landscape. This is auto collision generated, so when you play from here, you'll automatically stand on it instead of fall through it. You can set materials to it. You have to make a slightly different material than a normal material, but I mean, there's tutorials for that, easy enough to do, and you just paint your materials on from here. But landscape is a real powerful tool that I love to use. Foliage. Foliage is awesome. You can take pretty much any mesh, toss it into the foliage, and you can set it to randomly generate sizes, minimum, maximum, like minimum 1, maximum 5, and it will auto snap to the surface underneath, so you can literally paint things. You can set the angle that it paints on, so it won't paint on more than 45 degrees. Usually I like using this one for like grasses and trees and bushes, and it creates very good randomly generated geometry. My system's starting to bog down a bit. Let's close this out. But I mean, really powerful tool, worth to check out if you have the time. And the more you mess with it, the more natural it starts looking. It's really awesome. And then of course the geometry editing. If you want a custom shaped volume or a custom shaped VSP, like, you would just modify it in here. So up here, of course, we have our save option. Content opens the content browser if you've accidentally closed it. Marketplace on the first screen up here if you need to buy something. Settings, your world settings, your project settings. Generally, you don't want to touch this unless you know how it works. It's always fun to go through and mess with it just to see how it works, but just remember you can break your game with it. Blueprints, you can create new blueprints or open the blueprint that controls the entire level from here. Matinee, if you want to add like a track, so your if you want to have your camera follow a specific track, you would use that. Build. This is how you render your scene. In the viewport here, you just have the unbuilt everything. Nothing's actually built yet. It just uses default lighting settings and gives you an approximation of what it would actually look like. None of the lighting's built or anything. So when you want to build, you would just go through here. You could build lighting only. You could build geometry, build paths. Paths is like I want to say AI. But when you want to actually look at how your level would actually look like, you just go and build. You generally want to start at preview. Production will take a little bit longer to compute. When you do build, it actually opens up another program that it uses to build the project. You'll see it's just exporting, compiling shaders, and then it'll start building lighting. Exporting lighting. But anyways, and then it builds it, and then it'll re-import it, and you'll notice, like if you look at the scene, you'll notice the shadows will be better and the lighting will be less white. So you'll just have to experiment with that on your own. I'm kind of lagging a little bit because I'm recording right now. Oh, one other thing. Unreal automatically opens up in real time. So any animations you have are constantly running. If you want to free up a lot of your computer processing power, set real time to off. Real time is useful if you want to see your animations in playing, like if you have wind playing and grass swaying and all that stuff. And if you need to see like your stats, like frames per second. Obviously right now I'm running at very low frames per second. You can only do that in real time. There are other things you can see, but generally if you want to free up some of your power, you just turn real time off. Right here we got different options: perspective, lit, show. Right here you can open up your default window sets. You got perspective, side view, front view, and top view if you want to see your world at the different views. Defaults are set to wireframe and lit. You can show your world unlit, how it looks without any lighting information. Wireframe, which is what these are default set to, so you can see your geometry. Detail lighting, you'll want to build your lighting first before you go into the lighting stuff. It shows a little bit better. This is lighting only, no material showing. Light complexity, so if you have like 500 lights in one spot, it'll show up red. Again, you want to build it first. Shader complexity, pretty much how much power it takes to render these positions. The little red dots are not good. but I mean, they're not really bad either. You just don't want it to be solid red. Stationary light overlap. The more complex it is, the more red it is. Light map density. Reflections. Just different ways you can view your scene to optimize it. Lit is the one you'll use most often, of course. Show. You can turn different things off if you don't want to see your BSPs, or if you don't want to do a lot of things. Let's close this out a bit. One thing that's useful, all these little hovering icons, you can hide and unhide with the button G, so if you don't want to see them. And then over here we've got our different modes. This controls your widget. If you want to move it versus rotate with it versus scale it. You can also manually set the things right here. So if you want to rotate it 45 degrees and scale it 10, or I'll scale it universally. Another thing that's really useful is the space bar. You can automatically go between the three widgets with the space bar. You can set where your or gizmo is what it's called here. You can set where your gizmo automatically uses for world versus local orientation. Let's see here. Snapping. It changes per widget. Like this one is for rotation, or no, this one is for grid, right? Yes. So where's the grid? Okay. Landscape, go away. You can see the grid here. You can automatically snap to that with this option. This is by 1, 5, 10, 50. You can see the grid change by how much you want to snap. Rotation, you can set how the angles it rotates on. 5, 10, 15, 30, all the different angles. And then scale, how much you want it to scale. So like, let's use scale as an example. Right now it's every 0.25. Let's use a different object. Every 2.5 versus every 10. It automatically. Oh, 10's too much. Let's go with 1. It automatically scales, snaps bigger. And then this is the camera speed. It's how sensitive your camera moves versus how fast your camera moves. You can also adjust it with your middle mouse button while you're moving, I think, but mine's broken. Oh yeah, middle mouse without clicking also zooms in and out. So scene outliner over here. This is where you can see everything that is in your scene. Audio, lights, player start, everything. So if it's in your scene, you can find it in the scene outliner, and you can select the object, double click on it to automatically go to it, or you can even delete it, rename it, everything from here. Useful if you have like 5 million objects in your scene, but also you want to keep it organized, because if you have 5 million objects in your scene, it can take a long time to find the right thing. Over here we got our details panel. Every object should have its own details. Here you can modify anything that's applied to the object, like the mesh. the material, how lighting affects the object. Will it be casting shadows? Will it not be casting shadows? Do you need the material to be two-sided or not? Just things like that. You can get pretty detailed in the things that happens with the object. Simulate physics. If you run into it, will you bump into it like it's a solid wall, or if you run into it, will it fly away from you because it's a light object? That type of thing. Collision. Will you bump through it or go through it? Simple as that. Collision presets, block all. There's other things you can do with it. You can customize it, of course. Let's see here. Customs. You can. Does your camera collide with it? Does your character collide with it? Does it collide with the world? Things like that. Like physics volume, I'm not sure what that is. Rendering, is it visible or is it invisible? In-game visibility versus in-game visible in-game versus not visible in-game. Tags, you can just I've never really used those. Actor, you can change its default settings here. And then blueprints, you can modify or create blueprints from it, or turn it into a blueprint. So that's pretty much most of everything. You've got, of course, your default things up here, your file, new, open, save, export, edit, undo, redo, delete, duplicate, project settings, editor preferences window. You got different things you can go through. Statistics is really nice if you want to see how many tries are in your scene, or see how many objects are in your scene. Like there's a bunch of different things you can pop open, and of course your helps. Tutorials is really nice if you don't know what you're doing. You can learn really all kinds of things. Like it'll go through it in scene 2. Well, that's pretty much it. You can search, you can feedback tutorials. Saving, there's two different types of saving. You save here, it saves the level, but it does not save your material changes. So you have to save your material changes separate from your level changes. Unless you use the Control S option, that just saves everything. Then you don't have to worry about it. But if you want to save one without saving the other, you can just go to your object, right click. You should be able to go to your object, right click and save. There we go, save. Or else you can save the entire folder. It's useful if you're making tests objects or test iterations and you're not too certain what you want to, if you want to save the changes or not. Other than that, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a lot easier when you just jump in and start messing with things. Like there's a lot you can do with Unreal Engine 4. Anyways, I hope this helped you out. If you need more tutorials, there's tons of tutorials available. If you want to see more tutorials, I know I'm not the most entertaining, but whatevs. Just let me know, and I'll make it for you. I might do some basics, like basic blueprints, basic materials and stuff, but I mean there's tons of those out on the internet already. Anyways, I'll see you later. Enjoy and all that, and make awesome games, cause Unreal Engine's awesome like that. Oop, where's my... Here it is. Bye.